Hey guys, Scott Layton here, Mike's Pet Life, Renaissance Spirit Channel. I'm filming today here in Gjirokastër, Albania, on a beautiful sunny morning on the 11th of May, overlooking the gjirokastër castle and a beautiful ancient church. This video is not one of my tourism videos, guys. This one is more about politics and something that I've been wrestling with for a while. These are my views on immigration and my issues with immigration. Not with immigration itself, but the reason why immigration is so necessary. Let me give you an example. In America, for the longest time, we were fed a line that there are some jobs out there that Americans won't do, basically because they're too lazy. The idea of Americans working in the hot California sun in fields. It's not that Americans wouldn't do those jobs, it's that Americans weren't paid enough to do those jobs. So the companies went and hired people from Latin America, from Mexico, to do them. It's not that they wouldn't do them in America themselves. Americans have been doing agriculture and climates for hundreds of years. It's that they wouldn't do those jobs at the wages that those companies were paying. And that's the lie. That's the misconception. That's the thing that most people never question. And that truth is relevant to the whole conversation about migration. If companies aren't willing to pay people a just wage, a living wage, if consumers are willing to go and pay less for goods because they're produced by people in other countries or produced by immigrant labor, it's greed, guys. That's the issue here that we're talking about. It has nothing to do with the person from Guatemala looking for a better life. They deserve it. Everybody does. Everybody deserves a living wage, no matter what country you're from. And here in Albania, that same American example is equally true. Since 1990, 40% of the people of 1990 have left, immigrated elsewhere, to places like America, to places like the European Union, because they were looking for a better life. And, ironically, people from America are now coming to places like Albania because it's cheaper for us here than it was back home. So we are looking for a better life. All at the same time that the government of Edi Rama is asking for 40,000 Filipinos to move to Albania. Because the Filipinos are looking for a better life, but also because Edi Rama and the Albanian government realizes that there are not enough people for manufacturing and construction and tourism here in Albania. The problem is related. It's not just a problem of one country or another. It's that most people in the world aren't getting a living wage. They're not getting enough money to be able to go and support their family. So they end up moving somewhere else, like I have, to be able to find a better life. And that, my friends, is the story of humanity. We've migrated out of Africa 150,000 years ago, and we've been moving all around the world ever since. The story of humanity has always been one of migration. We have migrated all over the world at this point. And we continue to do so. Whether or not that's an argument for open borders, I'll let you be the judge. But the reasons for the migrations are still there. In fact, they're even worse today because of things like wealth inequality and the growing concentration of wealth. The people who say things like, some people won't do this job because they're too lazy, is a lie. We're all human. We're all the same race. We're all the same species. We're 99.9% the same. We've all done work, our ancestors at least, in agriculture, in various fields, because we had to. It's not that any of us are not willing to do it. It's if we're willing to do it at the wage that they're willing to pay. That's the simple truth about migration. That's the simple truth about why people are looking for better lives. The same reasons why some people go to college or university or get into track or sports or movies. They want a better life. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've always done that as people. We've always tried to go and improve our situation. And with the quality of life issues today, more and more people are having a difficult time doing that. So they have to go even farther afield. The fact that people are moving here to Albania from places like the Philippines, on the other side of the world, while Albania is still losing its own population because people here aren't being paid enough to live, Albanians aren't being paid enough to live in their own country, what does that say about the world? And part of that's just, like I said, greed. A lot of foreign direct investment coming into the country that isn't benefiting the people who actually live here. A lot of the problem is extraction. And let's be honest, Albania is a very rich, resource-rich country. They are a petroleum state. They have gold. They have various minerals. They have uranium. They have agriculture. They have things that most countries would be jealous of. But the people themselves aren't benefiting from that. So they end up going to college in places like gjirokastër here, or Tirana, and then when they graduate, they move abroad. They're just looking for a better life. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem is that the government here isn't doing enough to keep people here, isn't doing enough to help living wages, isn't doing enough to offer safety nets for people, labor rights, human rights, social and justice. And the same is true in America. In fact, in America right now, it's going in the other direction. Trump is making it even harder for people to be able to support themselves. Making things like food, making things like gasoline, making everything more expensive. Cutting on social benefits. All to help the richest of the rich, who already frankly have more than they can spend in several lifetimes and don't need the extra help. Countries need to protect their own, to be sure. They need to be able to make sure that private citizens and private equity and investment firms are not extracting wealth outside of the country, to make sure that they are protecting the people who live in their country, their own citizenry, to make sure that everyone has a living and just wage. Similar to what Norway does with their sovereign funds to protect the people of Norway. Companies here from America, China, Canada, extract the wealth and resources. But does it go to the people here? No. They can barely make enough to survive. Hence the reason why so many of them are leaving. And the same is true of the Philippines. The world needs to be more just for everybody. Otherwise, we all suffer. It just is a spiral that is the lowest common denominator. If people from country A are being paid too much according to the rich, then we'll start going and getting people from country B to come and take their jobs. And then once country B starts getting too high, like India, for example, then country C becomes the next option. These are the reasons why there have been things like offshoring. For years, companies are just trying to use us as a resource, and they are vying wherever they can for the lowest price. And as long as we're willing to let them, as long as we're willing to accept lower wages, as long as we're willing to accept a relatively lower price for certain goods and services because of these things, the problem is going to continue. We all need to work together across boundaries, across borders, across countries, and make sure that everybody has a living wage. It's that simple, guys. The solutions, of course, are not. There will be a lot of blowback. There will be a lot of pushback. But the problems we're facing today are global. None of them is just one country versus another. We're all people. We need to stand together. That's all, guys. Have a great day.